Yeah, so I think that's pretty significant that we had this thing that's tied up. It's a whole bunch of knots. We have a few different materials here, but even there's a little knot at the end of this here, see? And it's kind of, there's a whole bunch of knotting, and it was tied around a piece of wood that was underneath quite a lot of debris, and it wasn't only just tied around there, it went through a nail. So it was kind of, how did that acquire, in that sequence, how did that happen? That sequencing is very strange. It is anomalous. Someone had maybe tied that and then someone later stacked it together, you know what I'm saying? But that was underneath quite a amount of debris. I don't think you could have tied that cord around that wood and put it around that nail and had it like the way it was without having taken all that stuff off and then putting it on top of it. So that being the case, I'm sure there's more to discover. I will try to get to that little blob of whatever stuff that is. That was a pretty, seemed to be a tactile substance. So something, we'll find out what that is. But I'm going to try to dig up what's the cord tied to. It's got to be tied to something underneath this pile. But I'm going to try to take it apart step by step so we don't really interfere with too much. What I do want to point out though is the structures here. So we have this beam here, and then we have these two coming off it. This one, and very particularly placed. They do seem particularly placed. I just came to that assessment. And even this one and the next one too, very particularly placed. And then it comes into that little, what do you call it, lentil? There's a little, cubby. It's got the you could just say it's just random, but again, I would disagree that this is random, and we'll try to find some more oddities, anomalous strangeness. Okay, I'd like to point out that those were actually heavy. I moved them, they're all heavy, and there is like a moisture content, which partly is to why these weights are so different. Some of them might be dry, some of them are, they're treated lumber, but I know some of these are very heavy. You can't move them at all, and I know that they've been moved, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this was heavy as hell. Somebody reorganized the other stack of them over here. This big stack over there got reorganized. Like, what? I know that in the daytime, like sometimes I eat pizza and I just got really tired, and not the first time, because there's other spots in the city that have these same situational things, and I go to sleep, just like take a little nap in the daytime, like noontime, and the board's shaking, like rumbling, and even pushing you. You pushed me off, and I rolled off because someone pushed me off of it. I was sleeping. So that's just a point to say, there's a lot more to add to it on that, but I did have the case where I had I have quite a lot of stories, just in particular of these things. But just wanted to note that those were kind of heavy. But here underneath here, we have more cloth. This is underneath one of the beams. So it's very, very specifically placed under that lentil. I would call it a lentil. You see specifically under there was this soft stuff here, this little squishy stuff, and we have this knotting right here. It's obviously the same. It's obviously the same kind of structured stuff right here. So let's see if this is. Even that looks like it's pretty much looped a little bit on this piece of wood. See, it's somewhat of a loop around there, and we'll pull that right off. And just see, it's pretty rotted under here. But this wrapper is pretty new. This is probably blown in here, but this is pretty old. We'll discover more. We're finding stuff here, so this is going to be something underneath here. We might find something morbid, and we'll find out what's down here. Yeah, I want to point out we got more same cross-hatching lentils pieces, and we got another bit of cloth here knotted, tied around another piece of wood. So we see very much of this clothing is very accumulative, and very much see these two cross-hatched lentilings as we're progressing through. We're finding some, so this is we can see this is all kind of a make together of that, and that's very interesting. Even as say the angling of these is very, you see the geometry of it. You can recognize that. I can see it. You see that those pieces like this is a very geometric form that's not quite natural, not quite chaotic. I mean, not quite, I think you get my point.